Hey folks, it's Amy from Colorado Mountain Living. I wanted to give you an update today on the bees, especially the hive that is hasn't been doing so well. And so I wanted to check on them. It's been 4 or 5 days since I added the brood frames and the extra feed, and so now I want to check on them just to sort of evaluate, has that made any difference? One of the things I did find out when I took all of the lower hive bodies boxes out and I brought them inside and I kind of took it apart, that there was quite a mouse nest in there. In fact, I think it was still living in there, and that could have been one of the big problems of why the hive wasn't thriving. They just had a big pest in there, and the pest may or may not have been eating brood, or may or may not have been eating their honey stores. It's hard to say exactly what the mouse was doing, but anyway, so today I want to check on them and share with you guys how they're doing. I'm definitely curious. I've got my fingers crossed that it's made somewhat of a difference, and they're kind of turn the corner and start to thrive again. So let's find out. And I'm going to take a look in our hive, the one that's not doing so well, to see how they're doing. It's been a few days since I put those extra brood frames in. And the interesting part you might find really intriguing is that the entrance reducer is still in the hive in the same spot. So I'm kind of drawing the conclusion that the mouse was still actively living in the hive until I cleaned out that bottom hive body. So the entrance reducer untouched, and the bees are, it's a good sign that they're flying in and out. So not as fervently as hive 1 over here, the new hive 1, the new hive, and this busy hive over here. They're actively flying. This one's got some activity. We've got bees bringing in pollen. We've got some good signs of activity, so they're still kicking. They're not dying yet, but I just want to see what is going on the inside. Let's see what's going on the inside, including the feeder. So let's get this set up. I think of the smoker as sort of like a courtesy. It's kind of like knocking, like I'm announcing my presence with the smoker, and that's about that. Okay, first thing I know what's in here is the feeder, which interestingly, the feed inside has crystallized. So I don't think the bees are actually getting to it anymore. I actually brought some hot water in a kettle so I can see if I can liquefy this. So I'm going to take this off, try to liquefy this feed here for the bees, and see how they're doing. This is very hot water I'm pouring in, so I don't think the bees are liking that if they're too close to it. Just kind of showing you here. I did add a little bit of hot water. Oh, there's a dead moth in there. But trying to liquefy that. I'll stir that up in a little bit. But the bees that are in the feeder are kind of like, no, what are you doing? And let's see. I guess what I'm curious about is if any of this brood has kind of made their way out of the hive. And I'm curious if the queen has had any more egg-laying activity. All right, I'm seeing the brood that I put in here. I think this is the brood frame that was in here. And I'm seeing nectar in these frames, which is good. I see some bees starting to emerge. I don't know if I can get this on the camera, if I can really focus in on it, but there are a couple spots where bees are starting to emerge out of the brood, so that's good. That means their population's going up. That frame makes me happy. Okay, I'm seeing larvae in this one. I'm seeing pollen. So in this frame, down here, There's larva that's visible, not capped yet. There's just some spotty brood, so some might have emerged out. This one is a mixture of spotty brood and some larvae. So that's encouraging. I feel like some of the brood has already emerged from what I've put into the hive already. In general, the bees seem a lot more active. They seem a lot more mobile, moving around quite a bit. Busy, if you want to say that. Another brood frame, which is one I think that I put in there for sure. It was really packed with brood. Still's got a lot of brood on here, not emerged out yet. I'm seeing bees with pollen. I'm seeing a lot more positive signs of this hive getting better. I see nectar around the edges. I see brood in the middle. I'm wondering if I'll see the queen on this frame because she's always kind of been towards the middle of the frame. I don't really see her yet though. It's okay. What I'd love to see are eggs. Eggs would mean that the queen's kind of feeling comfortable laying. I feel like this one could be the money shot. Seeing a good mixture of brood and larva. So a lot of larva makes me feel like the queen possibly has been laying in the past few days. Well, they look like they're like 5 days old. I see the queen on this frame. I see eggs. Although the eggs are like not in the middle. They're kind of on the edge. Drones make a lot of noise when they fly and they always kind of scare me. So I'm trying to look in all of these cells and I am seeing eggs. So the queen is back to laying, which is great. So the next thing is got to make sure they have enough room. They still don't have as much feed as I'd like to see. They don't have very much stored honey right now. They don't have a lot of nectar. This frame is feeling a little bit thicker. Actually, I don't want to pull it out because I don't want to destroy the comb right there. Put that back down. Let's look at the one next to it. So what I'm trying to figure out is if they are really collecting any much nectar right now. This frame feels kind of heavy for what it is. And we've got honey in it. This was, I think, maybe one of the frames I gave them. So they have room to put up honey. And there's nectar on this frame. I would just like to see more. There's not a lot on this side. So they've got some, but they're going to need a lot more. So what I'm going to do is put another box on top so they have room to put stuff and just keep feeding them until they stop taking it. That's my theory. But so one last little thing I need to do before I close up this hive today is just dissolve the sticky syrup that pretty much dehydrated in the last few days. So I'm just kind of mixing it up with the hot water I put in there. All right, so I stirred up the crystallized feed there, so it's a lot more liquid. And I also popped a couple of rocks in the bottom to tilt the hive forward so that the feed is heading towards the bees and so it doesn't collect back here. And that way it'll probably be easy if just have it not crystallize all the way in the back here when it starts to get a thin layer. Okay. Anyway, guys, I think these this hive is actually looking like it's going to recover. The brood is emerging. They're increasing their population. The queen is laying eggs. They're putting up nectar. So I feel like I just barely saved them. They were really on the brink of not making it as a hive and completely failing. So I think it's still important to feed them right now. Maybe this afternoon I'll put on another box for them to expand up into of comb that I had pulled out earlier that I can kind of go through. That's already filled out, so they don't need resources to build the honeycomb itself, but then they can just fill it with nectar. So they still have 4 to 5.5, maybe 6 frames that are empty in this box currently. So they're not really in having a risk of not having anywhere to go. So they're not really at a risk of a swarm right now, but they are increasing their population, and it seems like they're kind of recovering from their mouse guest, the uninvited guest of the mouse that was kind of overtaking their hive, it seemed like. So anyhow, I'm really excited about this update. I'll definitely keep you posted because, you know, you have to keep a close eye on things. Things could change in an instant. You know, if you don't keep a close eye, they might run out of food again if their feeder runs dry, like it has. So I'm happy to bring the news about Hive 1 is not going to fail, I think. I'm going to say that they're not going to fail this year. They're looking like they're coming back, and we'll definitely keep you posted on their progress. But just wanted to give you a quick little update on them because I know everyone's been wondering about their fate and if they're going to make it. So fingers crossed, guys. I'll keep you posted. See you next time. Bye-bye.